The brain is undoubtedly the most fascinating and mysterious organ in the human body. A complex network of neurons which have the task of receiving, processing, and transmitting nerve impulses. But what happens to our brains when we fall in love? Love has always been a source of inspiration for poets, writers, painters, and musicians who have tried to give their interpretation to this great mystery. The scientific explanation, on the other hand, comes precisely from neuroscience. Thanks to the study of the nervous system, it is possible to explain how the brain changes and its way of working in the various phases of love, which can be divided into 3 moments. The first phase involves sexual attraction. The second is the phase of falling in love, and the third is the phase of attachment. A hormonal storm breaks out when we fall in love, which leads to the release of numerous substances capable of altering the chemistry of our brain. Let's see what they are. Dopamine. It is a neurotransmitter produced in different areas of the brain, and minimally by the adrenal glands. Dopamine is responsible for the intense state of euphoria, joy, and excitement that characterizes the early stages of falling in love. Furthermore, the pleasure centers in the brain that are activated are the same ones that are responsible for the development of addictions. This would explain why we constantly need to want to spend more and more time with our loved one. Falling in love is therefore comparable, by effect, to the euphoria that causes the consumption of drugs. Love can be considered as a real drug. Simultaneously with the increase in dopamine levels, there is a decrease in serotonin levels, neurotransmitter involved in the regulation of mood and appetite. In fact, when we are in love, we are less hungry, and the stomach closes, leaving space for the famous butterflies. They are due to the manifestation of the activity of intestinal neurons that are stimulated by neurotransmitters which put the body on alert. It is also easy to fall prey to anxiety and the fear of being rejected by the person we are in love with. The worry rises when he doesn't reply to messages. It is no coincidence that the broken heart syndrome exists. Heart suffering that manifests itself with the same symptoms of heart attack and is caused by extreme emotional stress. Well, yes, it is not just a way of saying. You can also die of love, even if it is very rare, fortunately. Adrenaline. It is a hormone produced by the medullary portion of the adrenal glands. When we are in love, our body experiences it as a stress, and in response it releases adrenaline. This increases the heart rate, salivation, sweating, and the diameter of the pupils. Jacqueline Olds and her husband, Richard Schwartz, neuroscience professors at Harvard School University, have studied love from a cognitive point of view for years. Brain scans of 2,500 students were compared, while being shown a photo of their loved one. The result: in the people involved, at the sight of the photo, certain areas of the brain lit up, that is, those that contain the greatest number of dopamine receptors, and therefore involved in pleasure and gratification. At the same time, some parts of the brain in love, for example the prefrontal cortex, are deactivated, thus decreasing the activity of the circuits involved in critical judgment. Therefore, we do not have a full awareness of the defects of the other, as rational judgments are temporarily suspended. The partner appears perfect, and we tend not to notice her behavior, which if she weren't in love, we might not even like it. For this reason, in the eyes of others, our behaviors can be irrational. At the same time, thanks to neuroimaging studies, it was discovered that there is a decrease in the activity of the amygdala, an area of the brain that is responsible for triggering fear in the face of a concrete threat. When we are in love, we tend to be less afraid and also to put ourselves in dangerous situations in order to be with the loved one. It is precisely in this phase that abandonment can be traumatic. Being left has a similar or stronger neurological effect than that which is caused by the first spark of love. Obsessive thoughts and suicidal behaviors can be triggered. Easy to say, but don't despair. It is a matter of time, and the brain circuits involved in falling in love reset. Among the substances released during the falling in love phase, we find phenylethylamine. Phenylethylamine is a neurotransmitter that is released more when we fall in love and has a similar structure to amphetamine, thus binding to its own receptors. Phenylethylamine has the task of lighting the fire of passion, and it does so by stimulating the central nervous system, thus causing the release of dopamine and noradrenaline. Phenylethylamine is also found in small amounts in chocolate. When we eat it, we activate our senses of pleasure and experience effects similar to those of falling in love, even if to a very small extent and for a short duration. Unfortunately, this phase of falling in love does not last forever. Love changes, but not necessarily feelings. After a certain period of time, it goes through the attachment phase, where other substances come into play, such as oxytocin, vasopressin, and endorphins. Maybe we will see this phase better in a future video.